You know, folks, a lot of companies really waste an enormous amount of money on marketing. The design might be excellent, the photos are beautiful, and your website looked great on your phone, but it's not getting customers. Why? Because you don't have the words that make people buy. But now you can fix that with Sage Tree. Sage Tree can help you find the words that make it easy for your customers to understand what you do and how to buy from you. Stop wasting money today and schedule a call. Getting started is easy. Visit sagetree.com and click on the Schedule an Appointment button. That's sagetree.com and click on the Schedule a Call button. Hey, we got John Dillon on the line. By chance?
Yes, you do. How are you doing?
Oh, my gosh.
There he is.
How you doing, Hollywood?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys?
Are you busy?
Yes, very busy.
Welcome to California.
Yeah, no, it's a good busy too. And to foreshadow a little bit of what we're talking about, we're getting busy winning.
What is there something?
Wow.
Is there something you can tell us? We want to talk about the injunction, but before we get into that, is there something you can tell us?
Yeah. So, no new orders have come out from the courts, but I have high hopes in a couple good ones coming out soon. Namely, to do with the Assault Weapon Control Act. I have a feeling we're going to be successful in that matter.
Feels like it.
Yes, I do.
Give it, John, for folks maybe that just tuned in or they're not aware of it. Why don't you give us a little, crib notes of what you're talking about?
Yeah, so there are a whole number of cases that have been filed against the state of California for its various infringements on the right to keep and bear arms. One of which was a challenge to the state's assault weapon ban. All the papers have been submitted on that, and we're just waiting for the court's decision. Recently we had a great decision come out of the Boland v. Bonta case, which was a challenge to provisions in California's handgun roster requirement. So, in California, you can't just buy any handgun you want. You have to only buy a handgun that's listed on the California's, safe handgun roster. The problem being is since 2013, we haven't seen a new semi-automatic handgun be added to that roster. And that's because to get on the roster, you're required to meet these standards that are, they don't do anything for safety, but also are just non-existent and impossible. So basically, you have a case, this roster requires three main things: a loaded chamber indicator, a magazine disconnect mechanism, and technology that's referred to as micro-stamping technology. And that essentially the theory of it is anytime you fire a weapon, the firing pin and some other part of the firearm stamps onto the casing of the bullet the serial number of the gun and where the bullet was fired from. And the DOJ and the state of California in their dreamland, they think that this is somehow going to help with, catching bad guys or law enforcement. And the problem being is this is a theory in the sense of this technology doesn't exist. It's never been implemented on a firearm ever, and no manufacturer has done this. So they require something that can't be done, and they do that because they want to prevent Californians from using, modern technology. Right now, you're basically limited to guns that were made 17 years ago.
So the injunction was because there's a lot of bad information going on or going out about the injunction. They didn't strike down the roster. They didn't, the roster hasn't gone away, and my guess is it probably is never going to go away.
Well, maybe not, but we can talk about that a little bit.
If John works harder. And do you still have to remove 3 guns to put a gun on the roster?
Under this injunction, I believe that wasn't challenged.
Oh, okay.
So to add a little information, because I know Michael's right when he's saying that there's a lot of disinformation out there. So in the Boland v. Bonta case, they challenged these 3 provisions in the roster requirements. Again, the loaded chamber indicator, magazine disconnect, and microstamping. And so the court issued an injunction on those 3 requirements to get on the roster. So the roster is still there. It still exists. And the roster itself has not been enjoined. So the state can still require, the
drop test.
Yeah, they can require all of that. Now, that being said, we have some good news in that wasn't the only challenge to the roster, provisions in the roster that is in California. So basically, let's see here. There is another case. It's Renna v. Bonta. And now this is actually a broader challenge to the California roster. And because of the injunction that went out a few days ago in the Boland case, the court actually requested a status conference. And that conference was on the 22nd, so just a few days ago. And essentially, and in this case, the Renna case, it's a broader challenge to the roster, so it's not just the 3 provisions. And the judge called everyone in because they actually had their oral arguments on their own preliminary injunction in Renna. And based off of that status conference, the DOJ admitted that the Renna case is a broader challenge to the handgun roster. And essentially, the court's going to take into account the decision that happened in Boland in issuing its decision in the Renna case. So we may have another case coming out here that has to do with the handgun roster that will give us a favorable decision.
Okay, so but let's talk about some specifics here. So they didn't get the Boland case didn't get rid of the roster. It just got rid of the 3 of the provisions that make it impossible to get on the roster. So what has
go
ahead.
I was going to say, so those 3, those are probably like the biggest hurdles for any new gun to be added to the roster, especially microstamping. Microstamping made it to where no gun can be added.
Impossible.
Because it doesn't exist.
So now, it doesn't look like they're going to appeal it. We got about another week on the timeline.
Yeah, well, remember, it takes a few days to get things together. So, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. I always say it's the state. They get to appeal these decisions with our tax money, so why not?
So here's the thing. Let's just say they don't appeal it and the injunction stands against the 3 provisions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just take Glock for example, to get their Gen 5s on the roster. Because they still have to get their guns on the roster in order to sell them in San Diego. They just don't have to get the microstamp and the chamber indicator, et cetera.
Yeah, so basically they would still have to submit, I think it's 3 models of any gun that they want onto the roster. And basically those guns would be submitted to drop testing and various requirements that, in essence, every modern handgun can essentially pass these tests because each manufacturer has to do all these tests already. Otherwise, because if they didn't do this type of stuff, if the gun just would go off anytime you dropped it, then the manufacturer is going to be liable down the road.
Right.
So these things are already done. So it won't really be a true hurdle anymore to get on the roster.
Yeah, but it's going to take months. Where I'm going with this is it's going to take –
it's not an immediate, hey, go buy a new Glock Gen 5 tomorrow type thing.
It's going to take months just to make it through the lab. The lab's in Maryland. The test will take months and months. And then the actual paperwork to get onto the roster is up to the California DOJ, which, again, could take months. So this –
Yeah, I mean, it's probably at least 6 months.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, but, and that's if the DOJ doesn't drag their feet.
Which I think they probably will.
That can happen. Yeah.
But then we go to Dave's question. Let's just take Glock, for example. If Glock says, hey, we're going to take these, 10 Gen 5s and put them on the roster, would they then have to remove, see what I'm saying? Would they'd remove their Gen 3s, but it would end up. What happens? You know what I'm saying? Like even if we do wait the 6 months and they can get their guns on the roster, that that +1 -3 thing is a huge problem. What happens there?
No, it is, and the Renna case is challenging. It's a broader challenge to the roster. So think of the Boland case. It's a huge win. It's awesome to have, but it's the stepping stone. These laws that California's put in place, over the last couple of decades, they're just compounding over on top of each other and making it hard. So to get it back to where we actually have our right to keep and bear arms, it's a chipping away process. And in this Boland case, just tipped off a big section for sure.
So we're still talking years. We're talking years before we're really going to be able to buy something off roster.
It all depends. If the Renna case goes forward, they get a preliminary injunction there, and we have a broader restriction on the roster requirement, then, it's not years. Then it's, hey, buy and sell guns like any other state in this country.
Oh, I see. So the Renna case, so the Boland case could crack open the Renna case. The Renna case really truly would eliminate the roster.
Yeah, that would have much broader implications in the challenge to the roster itself. And again, so if the roster is enjoined, well, then then we don't have to go through all that process to get a new handgun. It's just you go to your FFL, you do your background check, you get your gun.
So how do you feel about that there's so many possibilities, aren't there, John? It's almost, I hate to even speculate. Well, what's some other, let's not even speculate. Let's just kind of give a couple of different possibilities, which we've already done. But what do you think, so now we're just waiting for the judge to issue some kind of statement on the Renna case? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're waiting on the judge to order, make the same kind of order on whether or not they're going to issue a preliminary injunction in the Renna case. If we get that preliminary injunction, what the plaintiffs requested there, then again, that'll be a huge chip off the shoulder there, and we'll be able to, use both of those as kind of leverage to keep pushing against more this, bogus guns.
Wow.
But it could definitely open up the roster if both of these are successful.
Okay, so we don't get you very often, so you need to stick with us for another segment. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Hey, is there a better tool that empowers a woman to defend against an attacker that's, say, 100 pounds heavier? Well, that's why it's so important for women to learn how to defend themselves with the most effective self-defense tool ever invented. For women led by women, the Not Me program is designed to help with training, purchasing a gun, and getting a concealed carry permit. And guess what? It's totally free. To sign up, go to notmesd.org. The program is also available in Orange County and the Inland Empire. Get help today at notmesd.org. All right, back with us is John Dillon, the infamous gun attorney right here in San Diego. In fact, if you ever got pulled over by a police officer and you happen to have weapons in your car, first person you should call is not your mother. You should call John Dillon. Serious?
But yeah,
Serious? I wouldn't call my mother. I'd call John Dillon.
I call him for all
Don't
kinds of
say
reasons.
anything to law enforcement.
That's right.
officer.
Don't say nothing. I see nothing. I know nothing. Yeah.
I'll tell you that 90% of the time, and if I get a call, someone will tell me the story, and unfortunately, they're just like, yep, I told him this. I was honest about that. I said this. I gave him permission to search this, and now I have all these charges. I don't know what happened. I was cooperating. Yep.
What is the most? I guess you kind of just answer that, but what's you give some advice? Like, just tell people what am I being detained? Am I free to go? Don't let them search your vehicle, or what's the most common mistake?
The only things you need to say to any law enforcement officer if they're talking to you in a professional capacity is, I'm invoking my right to remain silent, and I'm invoking my right to have my attorney present before any more questioning continues.
Nice.
And then you shut up. That would eliminate 90% of people getting in trouble and getting bogus charges put on them.
But what if
they just invoke their rights and shut up?
What if
and
they
then
give you
searches?
What if they give you a really nice donut and a drink and they pretend to be your friend though?
Yeah, well, they will. They can pretend to be your friend. They can lie to you. They can put pressure on you. They can do all sorts of tactics to start making you talk. But as long as you say those things, I invoke my right to remain silent, and I want my attorney present before any questioning continues, they can't anymore. They got to stop. So, it makes life just so much easier for both you, the person being questioned, and potentially me, your lawyer, if I have to come into that situation. It's, just a sigh of relief when I get a call saying, yeah, I didn't say anything, and I invoked my right to an attorney. It's like a wonderful situation if that happens.
What about the intimidation factor? Because I think when, law-abiding citizens, they get stopped by a police officer, I think they're afraid to say, I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to an attorney. They're afraid they're going to get arrested.
Well, they think, and that may happen. You may get arrested, for various reasons, meaning they put you in handcuffs to take you down to the station. But this is the thing. If you keep maintaining your rights through that process, well, then you get your lawyer, and your lawyer can deal with all that later. The problem being is, and the context of this is we're talking about all these bogus firearms laws that are in California that can get people into big trouble through various technicalities. The biggest one, excuse me, like the assault weapon laws that are in this state. If you don't have your gun with the right configuration and the right parts in a system that changes the definitions of everything every few years and expands the definition of what an assault weapon is, well, then you get caught and you're a good person. You never committed a crime. You're just coming home from the range and, you get pulled over. And the unfortunate thing is innocent people generally, they think that, oh, well, as long as I'm honest and I cooperate, they'll understand that I'm a good person. I didn't mean anything. I'm not trying to break the law. And it's just an accident. But this is the thing. Cops, they're law enforcement. They're not law, oh, I understand your situation. They're law enforcement. Their only job is to enforce the law. So if you've broken the law, being cooperative or being nice, it really is not a defense when you're in court, a month later. So that's a big thing.
I don't even know if it's so much intimidation. It's
not really.
It's not that they're intimidated or afraid. It's that they're going, hey, wait a minute. I'm a good guy. I'm a good person. I'm not a career criminal. I haven't done anything wrong. And so they think that the police officer knows that. And the reality is that police officer is not your friend. I don't care if you have your Back the Blue bumper sticker or if you have your American flag with the blue ribbon, whatever, and all that, blah, blah, blah. That cop's not your friend.
Right.
He's on the job. He or she's on the job. He or she, their job is to figure out what is going on here. Has a crime been committed?
Is there a reason?
Whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. And I'm sitting here going, hey, I'm a good guy. He and I are buddies. We're friends here. We're both on the same side. No.
Wait a minute. You're handcuffing me. What are you doing? So let me ask you this loaded question, John, because I've had a couple of people ask me, and I kind of told them yes. 760-642-7150. Is that 24? Is that 24/7?
Well, it's definitely the answering machine can be 24/7.
Okay. Well, because if I'm up against, if they got me on the hood of the car.
Yeah, I get forwarded everything. So any message that's left is forwarded to me. So if there's an emergency in the middle of the night, I will get a notification for that.
Okay. All right. I mean, because,
that's the number to call 24/7. It's just that he may not be picking up.
Well, he's not going to pick up necessarily. Well, he's got kids. He'll be up.
He doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
How many more have you got now?
Second Amendment doesn't sleep.
I got 3 kids, almost 3 cows, and a whole lot of other animals.
Jeez. He's got a menagerie.
I know.
Yeah.
3 cows. I don't think I want. Was that your cow running down the street in Fallbrook?
No, my cows are nice. They don't run anywhere.
They're nice.
They stay home.
They're nice. They're trained.
So stop distracting us from the issue at hand, all right? So let's talk about gun laws.
Yeah, all right, we talked about, okay, so What else? So we talked about the roster. I think we pretty much got the right. Is there anything else we need to clear up about what's going on with the roster, or should we move on?
Well, yeah, during the break, I went back and I was looking at the Renna case and the complaint filed there. And it's a challenge to all of the California handgun ban statutes, which is the roster requirement statute. So if we get a favorable decision in Renna, that would be huge. And it's one of those things. Bonta, I don't want to be too hopeful, but that has really set the stage for a great decision out of the Renna case. So, and that would be a much broader challenge. Again, though, even if we get a favorable decision, the state can still appeal. There's still 100 different things that can happen, but it could be very good.
Well, who's the judge on the Renna case?
The Renna case is Judge Dana Sabrov.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we have no idea what a timeline is, do we? We don't know when the decision for the Miller case is going to come out, when a decision for the Renna case. We have no idea. There's no way to tell. I thought the Miller decision would have already been out by now. Here we are in March. I was saying it was going to be out by January. So it doesn't seem like there's any good that can come of guessing what the timeline will be.
Yeah, it's really hard to guess. Basically, these are federal courts, federal judges. There's no time requirement that they have to get, their orders out or written. And that's mainly because, all of these judges have a lot of cases in front of them, and a lot of these cases can be very complex. Just in the Miller case, the sole weapon case, I think it was 16,000 pages worth of evidence was submitted. So there's a lot to go through. And again, the court in Miller is the same court in the Fouts, the Rhodey, and the Duncan cases, and they're all kind of on a similar timeline. So that's 4 different orders that got to go out. So it may take a little while to get those orders, but maybe we'll be rewarded for our patience, I think.
And I know what other cases are coming. I know at least a handful of other cases that are coming. I'm not allowed to talk about them yet. Are there cases that you're allowed to talk about that we haven't talked about yet, or any announcements or anything you're allowed to make?
Yeah. So recently, just last week, I filed a new case in the Southern District of California, and it's a Second Amendment challenge. It's a little different than I think what most people expect when they hear Second Amendment challenge, but it is a challenge to the state of California's ban on switchblade knives.
Nice.
So we've got to remember, the right to keep and bear arms is the phrase we're dealing with. It's not the right to keep and bear firearms. And so arms encompasses much more than just a gun. It encompasses, knives, swords, body armor, all sorts of stuff. And California is a unique state in that they ban all sorts of knives and other instruments that they, would refer to them as dangerous weapons. I always say this when I talk to people: if you let me search your house, I could probably find some item that the state has prohibited possession of, and considered it some weird dangerous weapon. But you probably bought it when you were 11 years old and you've been sitting in the back of your closet for 2 decades.
What's the name of this case?
Knife Rights v. Bonta.
Knife Rights versus Bonta? Okay, cool. Knife Rights, yeah. That's an organization out of Arizona?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And so in that, we're challenging the ban on switchblades. So in California, you can't have any switchblade knife, and all that means is to open up the knife, you press a button and it opens up. There's no difference between a switchblade knife and an assisted opening folding knife. Once a knife is opened, it's a knife. We're not talking about grenade launchers or bazookas, which, if you talk to me, I'll have my arguments for those individual items. We're literally talking about folding pocket knives that state bans, and they ban it for no reason. The laws that they've put in place to ban these items have saved no one, they've helped no one, and they only put undue restrictions on people's ability to have arms in self-defense. Maybe not everyone wants to carry a firearm, but a lot more people are comfortable carrying a knife.
I think some of the plaintiffs are San Diego County gun owners members too, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Awesome.
Mhm.
How did
All
I know
right,
that?
buddy. Hey, it's great talking to you again. Can't wait for the next time we see you. Again, that
Sounds
phone
good.
number is. Whoop, got to go to the right page.
I'll help you out. 760-642-7150.
You're the man. All right, bud. Take
right.
care of them cows, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.